So besides the two things that I've already talked about, getting rid of that fear of technology, right? We can't be afraid of the cell phone. We can't be afraid of whatever is new, of Alexa, right? We can't be afraid of digital assistants, of artificial intelligence, because that's who's writing most of the actual, so much, I don't want to say most because I don't have the numbers in front of me, but so much writing is being done by artificial intelligence now. So many authors don't write their own books. Everything is ghostwritten, and half of that's done with artificial intelligence and software. Um, so it's kind of ridiculous to have this 1800s mentality when it comes to writing. So that fear of technology, that fear of, oh my, you're not going to have, and for math as well, right? Remember, for those of us who grew up in the 80s, you're not going to have a calculator everywhere you go. That was proven wrong. And I'm a big believer in teaching mathematical process and mathematical reasoning and being able to work things out by hand without these tools, but not from a place of fearing them. It's from a place of knowing when to use them. I set up the equations beautifully when I teach my kids, and then it's plug and chug. And then, okay, now we have it set up, we've checked everything, we make sure that it's aligned properly. Now put it in the calculator, because really, who has time for long division? And it's a good skill to have. I teach it, I like it. But at the end of the day, when we try to put something on a pedestal, like long division, and treat it as an intrinsic thing, and the kids wonder when, the kids are wondering, when am I going to use this? And they have valid questions. And we as adults don't have real answers for them. That's sad. I always give my kids an answer on when they're going to use something, why it's important to learn. Some stuff, I admit, is more useful than others. In math, with different kinds of functions, I always point out that the parabola, quadratic functions, the main use for that is in ballistic, cannons, catapults. A lot of the great minds, Archimedes, Galileo, Leonardo, they were employed by the military to make weapons. And so projectiles, for that stuff, it's really, really useful. Really, really useful. And I think we kind of overstress quadratics today, quite frankly, because of that history. Whereas lines, linear equations, which are simpler, have way more practical uses every day. As do things like logarithms that kids don't get to deal with till much, much later. But there are so many practical uses for logarithms. Probably more, I would say, than quadratics, because quadratics, it's ballistics, aircraft stuff, cannons, throwing a ball. Every word problem you see is something going up in the air and coming down. So we have to be honest with our kids why we teach stuff. So the fear of technology has to go. The fear of innovation has to go. One thing that I like Mark Zuckerberg said, he said for Facebook, is to move fast and break things, break stuff. And that's why Facebook is dominating the landscape. Most of you are probably watching this on a platform that's owned by Facebook, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. The other ones being LinkedIn, which is Microsoft, and YouTube, which is Google. Move fast and break things. And much as people want to complain about Facebook always changing, people aren't leaving. And those that do, they're going to Instagram, which is still owned by Facebook. So move fast and break things is how the world is changing and exploding and advancing at a rapid, rapid rate. Meanwhile, in education, In education, a snail would give education whiplash when it comes to change, when it comes to trying out new things, when it comes to new pedagogies, to use one of their $5 words. And it's no wonder the parents can't keep up. It's no wonder. It's absolutely ridiculous that parents cannot help their 8-year-olds with their homework, because the homework for 8-year-olds is explained in a way that is too complicated for a 30-year-old professional. There's something seriously wrong. And I'm not against the way Common Core is taught necessarily. I think it's cool that young kids are being exposed to things like the distributive property and to proofs at an earlier age. And they're being exposed to so much more at an earlier age. I'm actually all for it. What I'm not for is when we get locked down into ideologies and methodologies and we're afraid to shake things up. And when something does change in education, it gets locked in. And, you know, if there's a failed experiment, it's hard to change it back. It really is. So education needs the flexibility, especially, now I'm talking K through 12, because in higher education there's been a lot more innovation, a lot more, like I think moving lectures online was one of the greatest things that's happened in the past 2 decades, because that frees up the best professors from having to just give the same talk 100 times. It allows students to consume their lectures on their own time. I remember doing my master's degree, working on just at the gym, listening to the lectures while I'm working out. It just made more sense from a time management standpoint than to go and sit in a lecture hall trying to work and do grad school at the same time. So stuff like online lectures really hasn't penetrated the classrooms the way they should. And you know, the fear of entrepreneurship, the fear of business, and it's funny, like, and not like education. If you want to feel like you're in the 1800s, set foot in a school, and it doesn't matter how many Chromebooks they have. It doesn't matter how many, like, all the trappings of modern society that are put out. The mentality is an 1800s mentality, if that. In spite of the way the world's changed, we've gone from an agricultural economy to a manufacturing economy to a service economy to an information economy, and yet we're still teaching in a way that promotes an agricultural and manufacturing society. We're not teaching kids for the world that we live in today, much less the world that's going to exist 20 years from now.